Knights clashing in elegant duels, swords flashing in honorable combat, warriors dying quickly from clean strikes. Hollywood has turned battlefield killing into choreographed dance where skill and courage determine who lives and dies. The reality was suffocating men under piles of bodies, stabbing helpless opponents through eye slits, and murdering thousands of fleeing soldiers from behind. Real knights didn't kill through superior swordsmanship, they killed through exhaustion, wrestling, and the systematic execution of anyone too injured, trapped, or terrified to defend themselves. Medieval battlefields were slaughterhouses where most deaths happened after fighting ended. Once you understand how knights actually killed, every movie battle becomes absurd fantasy, where nobody dies the way people really died. Stand in the middle of a melee, and you'd discover that knights didn't kill enemies through combat skill. You'd see them dying from being crushed, trampled, or suffocated in the press of bodies before weapons ever touched them. The formations packed tight. You'd be shoulder to shoulder with armored men, unable to move independently. When formations collided, the pressure was immediate, bodies pressing from all sides. You couldn't fall, the press held you upright. Couldn't raise your weapon properly, no room to swing, just crushing pressure that made breathing difficult. You'd watch men dying without visible wounds, see them going limp in the press, suffocating. Their armor became a metal coffin that trapped them in the crush. You'd hear muffled screaming from inside helmets as men realized they couldn't breathe. See them struggling weakly, then stopping. Dead while standing, held upright by bodies around them. The trampling was constant. You'd feel bodies underfoot, knights in full armor who'd fallen and couldn't rise. You'd walk on them because stopping meant being the one trampled. Hear the metal crunching, feel the bodies shifting under your feet. Keep moving because the press behind you didn't stop. Heat killed reliably. You'd watch knights who'd fought for minutes suddenly collapse, not wounded, just overheated, the armor-trapped body heat, exertion raised internal temperature, the brain cooked inside the helmet, they'd drop mid-swing, heat stroke, not combat, ending them. The chaos prevented knowing who killed whom. You'd thrust your weapon into the press, feel it hit something. No idea if you'd hit enemy or ally. Everyone was stabbing blindly into the mass of bodies. Most wounds came from weapons you never saw, wielded by men you never faced. Knights didn't die in dramatic duels, they suffocated, overheated, or got trampled in the crush before swords mattered. Stand watching knights actually fight each other and you'd see that killing armored opponents required wrestling them down first. Combat wasn't fencing, it was violent grappling that ended with murder of helpless men. You'd see knights abandoning weapons mid-fight. Swords didn't work against armor. They'd drop them and grab opponents instead. Watch them grappling using armor as handles, grabbing pauldrons, helmet edges, anything to control the enemy's body. The wrestling was brutal. You'd see knights hooking legs, shoving, trying to unbalance opponents. A knight knocked down in armor was finished. Getting up took time they didn't have. You'd watch the struggle, both men knowing whoever hit the ground first died. Once down, the murder started. You'd see the victor kneeling on the fallen knight, pulling out a rondel dagger, probing methodically for gaps in armor. Armpit, groin, eye slit, throat. The fallen knight would be struggling, trying to protect vulnerable points, couldn't escape, just tried to delay the inevitable. The stabbing was intimate. You'd watch the dagger finding the eye slit, see it push through, hear the scream cut short. This wasn't combat. It was execution of an immobilized opponent. The victor was just whoever ended up on top during the wrestling. Some knights surrendered. You'd hear them shouting status, offering ransom. Whether they lived depended on whether their captor wanted money more than they wanted certain death for an enemy. You'd see knights calculating mid-murder, is this one worth more alive? The reality of knight combat was wrestling matches that ended with one man pinned and the other slowly murdering him through armor gaps while he begged. Stand in armor through hours of fighting and you'd realize that exhaustion killed more knights than weapons. You'd watch men simply stopping, not wounded, just unable to continue. The weight compounded over time. You'd start feeling strong in 60 pounds of armor. After an hour, your legs would be shaking. After 2 hours, lifting your weapon took conscious effort. After 3 hours, you'd be barely functional. Muscles screaming, lungs burning, body shutting down. You'd see knights sitting down mid-battle, just stopping. Too exhausted to continue fighting, they'd lower themselves to the ground, unable to stand anymore, sitting there in full armor while battle raged around them. Most never got back up. The enemies would come. You'd watch them approaching the exhausted knight sitting on the ground, see him trying to raise his weapon, unable to. The strength was gone. You'd watch the execution, a rested soldier killing an enemy too tired to defend himself. Heat combined with exhaustion. You'd be soaked in sweat inside the armor. Overheating, dizzy, vision blurring, your body demanding you stop, but the battle not stopping. You'd see knights vomiting inside their helmets from heat and exhaustion, fighting blind through their own sick, then collapsing. The tactical reality was endurance warfare. You'd see experienced knights fighting in short bursts, intense effort for a minute, then defensive posture while recovering. Novices exhausted themselves in the first 10 minutes and became helpless targets. Knights who seemed to lose fights often just couldn't keep moving, killed by their own body's limitations, not by superior opponents. Stand on the battlefield after the fighting stopped and you'd see where most killing actually happened. You'd watch the systematic murder of wounded, trapped and helpless men who couldn't defend themselves. The wounded were everywhere. You'd see knights with broken legs, crushed arms, helmets dented into their faces, still alive, unable to move. Some would be crying for help, others just lying there, knowing what came next. The killing parties would move through. You'd watch soldiers with daggers moving among the wounded, checking each body. If the wounded man looked wealthy, good armor, signs of nobility, they'd offer ransom terms. If he looked poor, you'd watch the dagger slide into the throat. No ceremony, just efficient murder. Some wounded tried to surrender. You'd hear them shouting their status, offering money. It didn't always work. The economics mattered. A minor knight wasn't worth the effort of capturing, guarding, and ransoming. You'd watch them executed despite their offers, their lives worth less than the logistics of keeping them alive. The trapped needed killing too. You'd see knights who'd fallen into ditches, gotten caught under dead horses, or were pinned by debris. Fully armored, completely immobile, waiting for someone to either ransom them or murder them. Most got murdered. The horror was the time it took. You'd watch soldiers checking hundreds of bodies, hear screaming as wounded men saw their killers approaching, see them trying to crawl away with broken bodies. The systematic nature of it, not battle fury, just workmanlike execution of helpless opponents. The wounded were liabilities. You'd see commanders ordering all enemy wounded killed regardless of ransom value. Couldn't spare men to guard prisoners. Couldn't risk wounded enemies recovering and fighting again. You'd watch mass execution of men who'd already lost just to ensure they stayed dead. Most battlefield deaths happened after fighting ended. Systematic murder of anyone too injured to defend themselves. Stand watching a rout and you'd see where the majority of killing happened. You'd see cavalry pursuing broken infantry, killing fleeing men by the thousands. The rout started when one side's formation broke. You'd watch it happen, men turning to run, panic spreading, entire army becoming a fleeing mob. That's when the slaughter began. Cavalry would pursue immediately. You'd see knights on horseback chasing routing infantry. The targets were running away, backs exposed, defenseless. You'd watch knights riding them down, sword strikes to the back of the head, neck, shoulders. Men dying without ever facing their killers. The efficiency was terrifying. You'd see a single knight killing dozens during pursuit. Ride up behind a fleeing soldier, strike downward, move to the next target. The routing men couldn't defend themselves, running in panic, many having dropped weapons, just targets being systematically slaughtered. The chase could last miles. You'd watch cavalry following routing armies for hours. Bodies would line the roads, all killed from behind, all dying while fleeing. The numbers were enormous. Battles might kill hundreds during fighting. Routs killed thousands during pursuit. Some routing soldiers tried to surrender. You'd see them stopping, raising hands, begging for mercy. Whether they got it depended on whether pursuers wanted prisoners. Most didn't. You'd watch the cavalry riding past surrender attempts, killing them anyway. Capturing prisoners slowed pursuit. The exhaustion made it worse. You'd see routing soldiers too tired to run anymore, just standing there waiting to be killed because they physically couldn't flee further. You'd watch the cavalry reach them, see the quick executions. Move on to the next group. Rivers became mass graves. You'd watch routing armies reaching water, see panicked men trying to swim in armor, drowning, others crushed on the banks. The cavalry would hit them there, trapped between water and pursuers, nowhere to run, just dying by hundreds. Medieval battles were decided during routs. Most casualties happened after fighting ended, during the systematic slaughter of fleeing men who'd stopped being soldiers and become prey. Stand among prisoners after battle and you'd see the economics of battlefield killing. You'd watch decisions about who lived based on their ransom value. The wealthy prisoners got protection immediately. You'd see nobles being treated carefully, disarmed but not harmed. Their armor marked them as valuable. A captured earl was worth years of income. You'd watch captors guarding them like treasure. Common soldiers got murdered. You'd see captured infantry being executed in groups. They had no ransom value. Feeding them, guarding them, transporting them cost more than they'd ever be worth. You'd watch systematic execution of prisoners who weren't rich enough to justify keeping alive. Some captors made examples. You'd see prisoners being killed publicly to terrify the next enemy. The cruelty was calculated, make surrender look unappealing, so enemies fought to exhaustion instead. You'd watch men being slowly killed in sight of their own army. The ransoming process could take months. You'd see wealthy prisoners being held in relative comfort, fed, treated decently, kept healthy because their value was in returning them undamaged for payment. But you'd also see men held for years when ransom negotiations failed, essentially enslaved. Some battles ended with mass execution of prisoners. You'd watch thousands being killed after battle despite having surrendered. The logistics of guarding that many prisoners was impossible. The cruelty was pragmatic. Dead enemies couldn't rejoin their army. The fate of prisoners depended on economics more than mercy. Rich men got ransomed, poor men got murdered, and everyone understood this was normal. Movies show knights killing through superior swordsmanship in honorable duels. Real knights killed exhausted opponents, suffocated enemies in crushes, and murdered thousands of fleeing or helpless men. You'd see Hollywood battles where combatants died cleanly from sword strikes. Real medieval deaths came from suffocation, trampling, heat stroke, or execution of wounded men who couldn't defend themselves. Films show fighting continuing until one side wins honorably. Real battles ended when one side routed, then the systematic slaughter began during pursuit. Most deaths happening after fighting stopped. Hollywood ignores that most killing was murder of the helpless. Real battlefields were full of wounded, exhausted, trapped men being executed systematically by soldiers checking bodies with daggers. Movies show prisoners being taken respectfully. Real captors murdered poor prisoners immediately and only kept wealthy ones worth ransoming, the economic calculation determining who deserved to live. Films portray knightly combat as skilled dueling. Real knights wrestled each other down and murdered whoever ended up on the ground, the killing as intimate as seeing your victim's terrified eyes through his visor while you stabbed him. Modern people imagine battlefield killing as facing enemies in combat. Stand on a real medieval battlefield and you'd see men suffocating in armor, being trampled unconscious, or fleeing in terror while cavalry killed them from behind by the thousands. Knights didn't kill honorably through martial skill. They killed through endurance, systematic execution of the helpless, and the industrial slaughter of routing armies too terrified to fight back.